Sixers Raptors tomorrow night, 97.3 ESPN. Joel Embiid, 12 points on 2 of 7 shooting. He had 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and a block in 32 minutes. He has been listed as a game-time decision. He's been questionable. He's been probable. Now, he is no longer on the injury report. But Jake Fischer over at Sports Illustrated has an unbelievable kind of benchmark of what Embiid goes through to get ready for a game through the Brooklyn series. Jake wrote about his pregame checklist when his status has been up in the air and what he goes through to try to get ready for a game. It is truly amazing. Jake Fischer here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline to kind of break it down for us. Now, this is like a bizarre story, Jake. Appreciate you jumping on board here. Of all the things that he needs to do, and then he kind of decides about 15 minutes before the game whether or not he's going to play. But what are some of the things that he has to go through to get possibly ready for a game from night to night?
Bizarre is definitely the appropriate word. It's quite unlike anything else in professional sports that one of the top 10 players objectively in the league is truly questionable on a nightly basis. And the Sixers developed this strategy, I guess, if you will, beginning around Christmas time of last season when he first was going through like a chronic back issue. And kind of the way it starts is they just get him out on the court and he goes through, his pretty typical pregame routine where it's, right at the rim, one-hand jump shots, hook shots, whatever you want to call it, in the painted area, stuff he's going to do off of offensive rebounds or when he's got a post-up touch. And then they kind of, migrate out more towards the elbow area. He starts, doing the moves he would do off those dribble handoffs he does with J.J. Redick and Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. And they go from there and they kind of do some sparring with an assistant coach. They play some one-on-one. Then he hops up on a training table. And from there, it's really about activating his muscles and kind of just seeing how his body responds to that, 10, 15-minute pregame warm-up routine he does in the court. And from there, once he goes back in the locker room, there's some more testing and some deep tissue work that they do. And it's really kind of just like a bang-bang sequence where they're kind of building up and seeing whether this guy is actually going to play that night.
Yeah, I mean, as you kind of, tweeted this out, it's an amazing that one of the greatest players on the planet, after he goes through all of this stuff, still gets to a point where you're saying, I can't play. And even though he goes through this rigorous routine, and it seems that, now he's not even listed. It's just such a weird thing that he's in that series against Brooklyn, it was almost a question every single game to where now he's not even showing up on the report.
Yeah, I'm not in Philly for this series at the moment, so I really can't attest to why he's not on the report, and I haven't checked in with anybody on the team today as to why that is. But, going forward, I would expect him to be legitimately probable or questionable for however many games left the Sixers have this postseason. Yeah,
now, how early in the day does he kind of get out there and kind of start doing these things before, when he's playing Brooklyn to make the decision on whether or not he's going to play or not?
So he does not practice. He doesn't go through shoot-around. This really all starts, he's getting treatment around the clock. He's waking up at 5 a.m. He's waking up from his pregame nap. He is always being treated by some type of medical professional from the Sixers. Outside of that, where it really starts to be determined is when he gets on the court. And I believe, if my recollection is correct, I think he gets out there around 70 minutes before tip-off.
Jeez.
So it's really like a 50-minute window that close to game time. It really is that close and that fluctuating.
Now, he kind of does all this stuff. Now, I've seen him kind of go through the pregame stuff, but in the playoff situation here when he's playing Brooklyn and he's getting ready here, he does all this stuff, and then he goes through all this stuff, and then, he just kind of just determines what? He tells the coach, hey, I'm in, I'm not. Do you think it's really 15 minutes before that he makes his decision, or there's some sort of collaborative effort ahead of time, or is it really 15 minutes beforehand?
I think he makes his decision right when he gets off the court. I think the ultimate decision that comes 15 minutes before is from the medical team. I think that's the way it's kind of been described to me. No one would really give me like a definitive answer, because I do think any given day there's a myriad number of factors that just kind of, think about it like in NBA 2K when you're creating a player and you're adjusting those sliders as to what their skill set is.
Right.
There's like 10 different sliders as to what will point to yes, and they're all kind of moving at all different stages of his process. So I don't know what like the pinpoint final stage is, but I do think that large responsibility, that decision, comes down to the medical team.
Now, does he do this before every regular season game all the time, or was this just something that they kind of to try to get him ready to play in these playoffs?
It's only when they're monitoring a pretty, I don't want to say serious, but a significant injury that could potentially, based off of wear and tear and load management, could be exacerbated. So if he just like sprains a thumb on a loose ball or something, but he's not going to be going through that with this.
Right. I mean, here's a guy who, every game he's flip-flopping, sliding, falling all over the place. I mean, they've got to hold their breath with him almost every single night that he hits the floor. I mean, does he seem, or do they seem frustrated at all by this routine, or is he just used to it? Are they just used to it?
They're just used to it. I think that is partially why they went out and were so aggressive in terms of adding Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris this year. I think they knew that when they got into the postseason, they were going to need, especially Jimmy, they knew they were going to need another viable one-on-one half-court option in the fourth quarter, and that's what you saw with Jimmy Butler in Game 2 in Toronto. But in terms of him, Embiid flopping around and falling a lot, there's definitely, it has been brought to his attention by people with the organization that he needs to be a little more careful in how he throws his body around, for sure. That's dated back to his rookie year.
Now, is this routine something that he's been doing in his tenure with the Sixers, or is this something new to this season? I did see the story at Sports Illustrated that he did this with Dario, who obviously is no longer here. So it seems like this has been something he's been doing for a while.
Yeah, like I said at the top of this, they kind of came up with this back around Christmas time of 2017.
Okay.
Back when he had that lingering back injury. So it hasn't been a consistent thing since then. But when he has sustained a significant injury that's kind of lingered on for weeks on end, this is what they do.
Jake Fischer, Sports Illustrated. It's a very unique situation. Check out the piece. Follow Jake on Twitter. You can follow him at Jake L. Fischer and read this checklist, if you will, of things that Joel Embiid does to kind of get himself ready. And sometimes it's not even enough, as we saw him miss a game in that Brooklyn series. Now, he is scheduled to play tomorrow night. He did not appear on the injured list, so it's a good piece. Very, very in-depth, as this guy obviously is, what hell is he, like 24 years old, 25 years old, trying to keep
25,
trying to keep him healthy. A guy who missed 2 full seasons and still has all sorts of problems, that tendonitis thing. I guess this is something that he's going to have to probably do, this routine, probably throughout the rest of his career.
We'll see. I mean, hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully he can work on his body some more this offseason, and he can put himself in a position where he's in the conditioning and has the muscle structure to kind of combat future ailments.
Jake Fischer, Sports Illustrated. Great piece, man. Appreciate the time.
Yep. Thank you, guys.